Fantasy man, 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 fantasy man.
If the editing of this video has gone the way that I hoped, then you just watched a pretty funny intro. When I saw my first ever Clive combo on YouTube, that song started playing in my head, and I just knew that I wanted to use it to make fun of this character. But I'm like, that's a whole verse of a song. There's no way Clive has combos that go on for that long. But then I tried it, and it matches perfectly because they're both like 20 seconds or something, which is crazy. Like, Clive has really long combos based on what I've seen. But hello everyone, I'm back and talking about Tekken. I'm sorry that the Tekken content on the channel has slowed down a little bit. It's because I don't play this game anymore because I don't like it, but I still keep up with Tekken because I was invested in the ship for like a really long time, and I guess I'm also harboring some sort of vain hope that it's going to morph back into something that I can enjoy. But I also think that the point of this video is going to be, as it emerges, as we're talking, that we should no longer hold out any such hope, because I think we are now in a vicious spiral and there's no going back, which might sound melodramatic, but hopefully it makes sense as we go along. There's a lot to talk about with Tekken in the last a few weeks or few days. Like, stuff's been going on and it's really crazy. So let's get into it a little bit. I've talked a lot about how I think the publishing for Tekken 8 and the development side has been very problematic and wrong, but I'm realizing more and more that I believe the community is actually complicit in what's going on, and it's not like one team throwing shit in the face of the other. It's actually more of a symbiotic or parasitic relationship, and there's a circle of life going on. And I'll show you what I mean, because I realize that it sounds very vague. But to explain a little bit, how I'm seeing this, I'm going to show you one of my patented graphs. We haven't done one of these in a while, so it is a bit of a throwback video, I guess. But I think this is sort of how the Tekken community is shaping up right now. If you look at, obviously the pyramid isn't accurate, because if it were, the base would be like 100 times larger and the top would be like a tiny sliver that wouldn't even be, significant. But, it paints a picture, right? So at the very top, what I mean by this, and the kind of the point that I want to make, is that since a couple of years ago, I think we've gradually seen a lot of the major voices in Tekken have their commercial interests entangled with Namco, let's say, whether they've straight up done fucking fast food ads for them that then end up in the $70 game, or they just collaborate or on something with them, make a video, hang out at some event when they show up in the same city or whatever. But it basically means that those voices aren't independent anymore, and you can't really trust them to have an objective view on what goes on with the game, especially if you look at what they leave out and what they won't talk about. Just refusing to address issues that obviously need to be addressed, right? And if you think that sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory or whatever, right now one of the craziest fucking scandals ever with this game is going on, and you can go on YouTube and basically see none of the really big channels or anybody really talking about it, but it's like this crazy thing, and it's like pretty big for me because we've talked a lot about cheating and plugging on this channel. If you've somehow missed it, let's just get into it. But for the last decade or more, right, one of the major issues, maybe the biggest issue to a lot of people with Tekken, has been rank manipulation and cheating and plugging and stuff like that, and the fact that there hasn't been any consequences for people who do it in the game, and Namco have been unwilling to do anything. Sometimes they lie or deflect or come up with weird fucking fairy tales about what is going on. But I think we eventually understood that the problem is the basic infrastructure of the last Tekken game did not allow for a way of doing this that works. It was just built in a way where those fixes can't really be implemented. And so it becomes obviously one of the major wishes, one of the requirements for the new game to be good. You're making a completely new game. This is a huge issue. Obviously, you're going to work on solving it. And then Tekken 8 comes out and it has the exact same problems, and Namco start deflecting and lying again and trying to implement fixes that don't work and issue bans that don't stick, and it's just the same fucking joke all over again. And now, the same week that Namco win fighting game of the year for Tekken 8, they try and implement a fix patch, and we knew in the past, this is something else that we could decipher from their weird fucking communications, that the issue is really that Namco can tell if somebody pulls the plug in a match, but they can't tell which of the two players did it. And so you can't just punish one of them randomly, because that makes no sense. So what do? Well, you make the game properly in the beginning, but it's too late for that now. So they implement a patch like a couple of days ago that's supposed to start deducting rank points for people who plug, people who cheat, right? And it's like, great, finally something good happening on this front, but it turns out that the game still cannot tell which of the two players plugged. So now people are losing points when people plug against them. Like, you can go online right now and somebody could be like, oh, not this guy, or right out, before they lose, pull the plug, and then you will get points deducted because the game thinks you did it. It is so incompetent that it's like off the scales. It's one of the most incompetent things like one of these publishers has ever done. Take the biggest problem and then implement a fix that somehow makes it like a lot worse. It's crazy. And nobody seems to like really want to talk about it, because I don't know why. Either there's like a huge gaslighting operation going on the Tekken community, or I have a point with this picture that I'm trying to show you right now. That's all I'm saying, right? I think at the bottom of the pyramid we have the new actual target audience of not only Tekken but most fucking software that gets made. It's that sweet demographic of people who are used to and happy with everything they do, having constant microtransactions or being a subscription, people who never really owned physical media and remembered when there was a secondhand market for that sort of thing. The people who are happy paying for different shades of nail polish for Lily $4 at a time. It's obvious why you want to tap into that market. It's huge and it's very, very profitable. It's easily manipulated. It's predictable. It's easily marketed too. It's just the fucking gold mine if you're trying to make some sort of a video game. It's the Fortnite dream that a lot of these developers are constantly striving after. And somehow Namco have managed to make a game riddled with really, really serious problems, but they've still managed to tap into this market, and now the game is successful despite the fact that it isn't good. And if you can get that going, I mean, you're living the dream, and I think your video game is very successful. A piece of shit that isn't worth anybody's time, but very, very successful. And so if you find yourself in the middle of this pyramid, and maybe this is where I would put myself, there is no incentive whatsoever for anybody to cater to you, because if you think about it, if you're just the average Tekken player, you're in practice mode at home and you go online and you're trying to learn, maybe you've been playing the game for a long time and you're worrying about getting better. Maybe you don't travel all over the world and win major tournaments, but you're like committed and really interested in being good at this game. That might be all the money you spend, the initial price. You buy the game, you have your favorite character, and then you play it all the time, and you're not really interested in battle passes or in-game stores. And you could play the game for 10 years and they will not make another cent off of you. But if somebody is willing to spend, $4 a week on some fucking, piece of shit that is like recycled from an older Tekken game, or is just a straight up fucking default shape in your Blender software, right? If people keep buying those, then you could make those $70 over and over and over again on the same person. And there is literally no reason why you would ever want to go back and rebalance the game or make it better, because again, there's just no incentive. And the way you keep that churning is you have the people who are prominent in the community and very visible be part of your marketing strategy, so that the people, the large population at the bottom just keeps fucking consuming, right? And that's how you end up in a situation where you have a game that is hugely fucking successful and a giant piece of shit in the opinion of anybody who actually knows anything about it, right? So yeah, really, really interesting. Maybe we should talk a little bit about the Game Awards. One thing that was interesting to me is I wanted to know who's on the panel. I mean, it's an award show. I know it was a fucking joke before I got into this, but I'm like, who decides? You know, who's on the panel? Who decides who gets a game award? And apparently it's 10% players, which is a joke, and then 90% games journalists, which is an even bigger joke, right? And you look at the list of these companies that are involved with deciding, and it's companies that we know are completely fucking corrupt, like GameStop, who we know do reviews for money. IGN, who we know are just the worst fucking thing ever. Not a single person in their entire structure seemed to be interested in playing video games or knows how to play video games at all. You know, it's coming from this industry of people who live in some sort of weird political echo chamber bubble, not really making games for anybody, just botanizing in this weird fucking culture that they've built. And now the bubble is bursting and all these AAA developers are going belly up because they just kept jerking off while making video games for literally fucking nobody. And it just keeps fucking flopping and it's Armageddon. And these are the people who decide that Tekken 8 is fighting game of the year, despite the fact that it the same week releases the biggest fucking buttfuck of a broken patch that they've done since the game came out, you know? I think one of the reasons I make these videos is like I usually get a pretty good like ratio on them and people agree with me in the comments. Maybe I just want to feel like I'm not the only one who's seeing this bizarre joke of a reality, right? Because nobody else really seems to be talking that much about it. And it's fucking insane how far this has gone and how shitty it's become. I haven't even started talking to you about what is in the fourth chunk of the battle pass with all these fucking recycled textures of nothing that you're supposed to pay money for. It's just very, very embarrassing. I have a little picture here of the stream or the Steam charts for Tekken. So this is just PC as of today, and you can see that while the game is honestly pretty stable in between updates, character releases, really it's sort of percolating at about 8 to 8,500 peak players per day, and then there's an upswing whenever there's an update. Heihachi was much more significant in terms of player numbers compared to Clive, which I think makes sense because, you know, people who already own the game are more likely to boot it up when they see something that they already love and recognize. But how many of these new people who are coming in because of Clive are people who have just bought the game this week to play him, you know? So it looks as though while the audience is shrinking, it is still staying at a pretty stable level. And as long as they keep, you know, making all of this money, releasing, you know, thongs and bunny ears for the characters, then that's obviously what they want to keep on doing. And they don't want to go back to, like, you know, meaningful balancing patches where the completely broken characters actually get tuned down. You look at update history for Tekken 8 and there are these tiny gameplay updates. We had one along with the patch that broke rank mode. And it's just like making hitboxes of moves bigger so that everything is consistent and nothing can whiff, because movement isn't fun for new players. And it's just making hitboxes a little bit different. And even though we have these glaring issues with, I mean, Heat being a piece of shit system, first of all, but the balance being so bad, it's so crazy that we're not seeing really significant changes to any characters. But again, if you're getting a giant award while you are showing your new product, it's selling massively and becoming hugely popular, and people are buying all of your microtransactions. So you're literally being called amazing on stage, receiving an award while pissing and shitting in the face of what the game and the culture is supposed to be about. Then, you know, you're basically in video game publisher heaven, and why would you ever do anything differently? So, I don't know, maybe Virtua Fighter 6 will be cool. You know, maybe I'll try the remaster when that comes out. But, yeah, let me know what you think about all the stuff that's going on. Again, I didn't even get into how shitty the Battle Pass is and some of these other crazy things. But the patch that penalizes you for getting cheated against is such a mindfuck that I don't even know, like, what world I'm in right now. That sent me for a big fucking spin, and it was hilarious. And that is really the main reason I keep talking about this. It is such a funny, ongoing, practical joke. And once you stop being upset at it because you're, like, you know, hoping for something better, or you have, like, reasonable expectations of Bandai Namco, once you just take a step to the side and look at it for the fucking comedy that it really is. It's just really, really fun, and hopefully you had some fun watching this video of me talking about it. Thank you so much for doing that, and I'll see you again very soon.